Welcome to Di's Home and Garden. Just as it says, this channel is about my home and garden. We make a lot of recipes, we do a lot of gardening, there may be some crafts involved as well. So if this is your first time here, thanks for coming along and joining us. And if you do like what you see, you can subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and that way you're notified when new videos are loaded up. So what we're doing today, we're in the kitchen as you can see, and we're cooking. We're cooking one of the family favourite recipes. Now, I have mentioned previously these series of books. These are the Australian Women's Weekly books. Today, I'm cooking from the Oriental Dinner Party Cookbook, particularly from the Indonesian section. The recipe that I'll be cooking is banana citrus cake with orange syrup. So it's a great recipe when bananas are cheap. So I was very lucky. Bananas have been around $3.99 a kilo. But our local grocer had them on special on the weekend for 99 cents. So of course I took advantage of that and bought a whole heap. And what better to do than make cakes, because this cake freezes really well. So I make this cake as a whole cake, and I also make it as cupcakes. And it's great because if somebody comes to visit, I can just get 2 or 3 cupcakes out depending on how many we need, rather than having a whole cake. And it freezes quite well for up to 6 months. I've had it in the freezer and there's been no deterioration of the cake. I find that by having things frozen, if you've got to go somewhere last minute and you want to take something, or if someone's visiting and you know, you've got other things to do and you don't want to worry about having to, you know, get a dessert or maybe even something for morning or afternoon tea, you just whip it out the freezer. Within a few hours it will defrost, and it's just beautiful the way it is. Sprinkle a little bit of icing sugar over it and serve it straight up with a cup of tea or a cold drink. It's scrumptious. So let's have a look at the ingredients that we're going to need for this recipe. So here are the ingredients for the recipe, and they're in 2 parts. So one is for the cake and the other is for the syrup. So first off, we need 2 cups of self-raising flour. Now I've used gluten-free self-raising flour. If you're going to be using gluten-free flour, what you need to do is to give it a try, because flours, gluten-free flours, are made from different ingredients and you need to find one that works with this. So mine comes from Woolies. It's the Woolies brand of self-raising gluten-free flour, and I find it works perfectly in this recipe. I don't find any difference in quality between using normal flour and the gluten-free flour, but there it gives me the option for anyone who is gluten intolerant that this recipe will suit them. The next thing you see down here, I use margarine, and again the recipe does call for butter, but I have members of the family who are dairy intolerant. So by using margarine, we've eliminated that issue. At the back we've got castor sugar, 1 cup. We've got 1/4 cup of orange juice, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and we've got 1/2 teaspoon of bicarb soda there. Now, after this recipe is cooked, after the cake has been baked, we pour a syrup over it, which makes it beautifully moist. In that syrup, we use water. I'm not sure, I've measured that out, I'm not sure how much is there. We use orange juice and we use normal sugar. And all the ingredients and the full recipe will be listed in the pinned comments. Okay, before I get started on making the cake, I'll get the ingredients out of the way for the syrup. So we need the water, we need orange juice, and we need sugar. So I'll just pop all that out the way and I'll pop it onto the stove. Right, now we need to cream the margarine or butter if you're using butter, and the castor sugar We need to cream them together until they're light and fluffy. Now when you're doing this, you'll need to occasionally scrape it in the bowl. Pop it all in to the bottom of the bowl. And I use a handheld mixer. I have a very small kitchen, so I don't have room in my kitchen to store big appliances. But I find that this works just fine. Now I just consult my recipe again. And the next step is to add the eggs one at a time. So I've got the eggs here. Now what you need to do when you're adding eggs to a recipe, you never know if you might strike a bad egg. So it's always wise to crack your egg into a bowl. Everything looks good. These eggs are quite fresh. I only bought them recently. But you'd know when you open it, it'll either have a smell or it might look a little funny. And if you're cracking them into a bowl like that, then you've got the opportunity to discard it without ruining the rest of the recipe. So once we've added one egg, we beat it, and then we continue that process until all the eggs have been added. If you try adding the eggs too quickly, you'll find that they won't be incorporated into the mixture. And again, we just scrape down the sides of the bowl occasionally to make sure that it's all being mixed in properly. have it. That's what the mixture looks like. I'll just bring the camera over. That's what the mixture looks like once it's all been mixed in together with the eggs. So in there we've got our eggs, our margarine and our castor sugar. Okay, let's see what's next. So the next part of the recipe is to process or blend the bananas, the lemon and orange juice until it's smooth and liquefied. With those eggs that I just used, what I do, I save the shells. I bake them in the oven until they're just starting to turn brown. And then I actually use the NutriBullet and I grind them all up. When I'm planting my tomatoes, to avoid blossom end rot, it's recommended that you add calcium to the soil. So I put a tablespoon of the powdered eggshells into the hole where I'm planting my tomato, and I can say that I've never had a problem with blossom end rot since I've been doing that. I did have it before I did that. So into here we need our orange juice and our lemon juice. And we're just going to process them. So I'll take it over here and process it. And that doesn't take long. You're just doing it until it's all liquefied. So that's all the liquid now. Now, the next step in the recipe is to stir in the sifted flours and soda and the banana mixture into the creamed mixture. So we've got our baking soda going in there. Bicarbonate of soda it is, sorry. And then we've got our flour. We'll just sift all that in. And we'll just press through. There were some lumps in that bicarbonate of soda. Just press that through. Now we can add our liquefied bananas. Make sure you scrape it out because there is actually a lot that's clinging to the sides in here, so that should all be in the recipe. So we'll just add all that. Right. We just need to stir this in. It's beautiful and light. And those banana peels will definitely be going in the compost. So there we have it. That's all mixed. That's all mixed in. Now I did prepare the tin that I'm going to be cooking it in earlier by just spraying a little bit of olive oil into the tin. So that tin has all been greased already. So I just need to pour this in. Pity my grandson's not here with me. He'd be anxiously waiting to have the bowl. There we go. Just take that off the top there where I spilt it. Okay, so there we have it, ready to go into the oven. You can just hear the fan going there. So we'll just pop that in. And we'll come back when that's cooked. Here we have our syrup, and all we need to do with the ingredients that we've put into that saucepan there is to just heat them through. So there's sugar in there, so we make sure that that dissolves before it comes to a boil. So we just cook that until it reaches boiling. And there you have it, it's boiling now. And all we need to do is just set that aside and wait until our cake's cooked, and then we can pour that hot syrup over the cake. Here we go. I'll just bring it out here, and you can see that the skewer is coming out clean. So that's ready to go. I'll just lift that out the way. Now in this section, I do it a little bit differently to how the recipe reads. It does say to let it stand in the cake tin for 5 minutes, and then to flip it out onto a wire rack to cool it. But what I do, I just put some holes in it with the skewer, and I pour the hot syrup over it. The syrup's hot and the cake's hot, so I just pour it over there. If you can see what I'm doing there, sorry, we'll do it the other way. So I'm just pouring that hot syrup over. Now the reason I do it this way is because when you put it onto a rack and you're pouring the syrup onto it, of course the syrup runs off and you get minimal syrup on your cake. When you do it this way, the syrup soaks right into the cake, and I leave that now to cool in the pan. When it's cool, I'll turn it out. This cake I don't need for anything at the moment, so I'm just going to wrap it up in some alfoil and aluminium foil, and then I will pop it into the freezer. I'll mark it with the date, what it is, put it in the freezer, and I know that it will last there for quite a few months, but I don't think it will stay there. There's always some occasion, and especially if you just arrive somewhere, someone's place with a cake, you're always very welcome. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed seeing this recipe made, and I hope that you give it a try. It definitely is a family favourite, and it's a great way to use up those bananas. If you've got them sitting in the fruit bowl and you think, oh gee, I won't get a chance to eat them and they're getting too ripe, pop your bananas into the freezer, and then when you've got time to make this, get them out, thaw them, and then when you liquefy them, it's the same process. So you don't need to be wasting any bananas just because they're going bad and you don't get a chance to eat them. Just pop them in the freezer until you're ready to make this cake. Okay, so as I said, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.